The book is called Treat Me Like a Customer, Using Lessons from Work to Succeed in Life. The author is Louis Upkins Jr., and Louis is with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
How's the weather?
The weather's perfect. it's better than it was in Nashville, so it's good.
Are you serious? Better than Nashville?
Yes.
It's been a weird winter, right?
It's been a long winter.
Yeah. Did you get nailed with all those snowstorms?
Yes. We had snow probably about 3 weeks in a row, just 60 degrees and then 7 inches of snow and then 20 degrees and ice, and it just continued.
If it's any comfort, Louis, you got more snow than we did.
Really?
We hardly had any this
Wow.
winter. In fact, winter for Southern Ontario at least has been kind of a non-event. Treat me like a customer. What a concept. The essential thesis, and I'll just summarize this because we have so much to talk about, but Louis is very successful in business, friends, decided to analyze, kind of parse, if you will, the essential elements of good business practice and apply them to marriage. You've basically written to husbands, although wives enjoy the book. A lot of wives buy it for their husbands. But you key off a friend of yours whose wife said to him one day in frustration, "Why don't you just treat me like a customer?"
Left out a word. She said, "Suck it up."
Suck it up.
And treat me like a
And
customer.
treat me like a customer.
And it really kind of birthed out of, he and I had lunch earlier that day and just talking about life. He's a highly successful guy. And he was sharing about, you know, all the things that he had in place. And I began to ask him about his family and about his legacy and all of these things. And he stopped and he said, "Louis, you know, you really ought to think about doing this all the time because you're so intuitive and you really have a way of getting to the heart of matters." And so he said, "Watch this. Let me pick up the phone and call my wife. I'll show you I have things in order." So he picks up the phone and calls her and said, "Honey, tell me about our family plan and tell me about our business plan." And she said to him, quote unquote, "You have no clue about what I do. All you know about is business and I handle the home." Click, hangs up the phone. So she wasn't that happy with it. And
Was he embarrassed?
he was, but she didn't know that he had placed her on a speakerphone. And so, that evening he got home and was preparing to, you know, really just rest, take off his jacket and sit back, and she was still steaming. And she said, "Why don't you just suck it up and treat me like a customer? Because you're very good at treating customers. How about treating me the same way?" And when he shared that with me the following day, I said, "Man, that's it. That's the common language." Because we all understand how to treat customers. We all validate ourselves as we service our customers extremely well. We have expectations as customers. And so it's that common language, irregardless if you're, you know, an hourly employee or you're CEO of a major company.
And I want to pick up on that, but just for the sake of our viewers, give me a little overview of your business experience, just so we know where you're coming from.
Sure. I started my first business my junior year in college. I've been in the branding business for the last 20 plus years and primarily focused
Branding, not brandy.
No, branding.
Branding, ING, branding, just in case you missed that. Branding business, okay.
Branding, which simply means we take concept to completion, and that from everything from apparel to media to recording, a variety of different platforms, primarily servicing professional sports and entertainment and major ministries. And that's how I've spent my time, and then just been a serial entrepreneur, dabbling in, you know, everything from real estate to technology, et cetera, et cetera. So.
And you've worked with some household names like Whitney Houston and Oprah Winfrey and B.B. Winans and a few others.
Yep.
You mentioned in the book before you were married you had a pretty jet-setting kind of lifestyle.
I did. I worked with B.B. very closely for a lot of years, a very dear friend, and you know, during that period of my life, I was a single person. It was a lot of great experiences to be able to travel the world and to be around, if you would, the who's who in the entertainment space, and to see kind of behind the scenes of what really happened when the cameras were away, and that was a great experience for me. But it also, what it did for me is it. One year I remember very vividly that it was January, and all I could remember about that entire year was it was January again. Right. And my life had just gone that fast.
Wow.
And it kind of made me stop and say, hey, you know, what is it that I really want to leave as a legacy for myself? Because all of this good stuff, which was really, really good stuff, a lot of fun, a lot of great people, but there was more for me.
Now, it's the last part of your book where you talk about legacy, which I found really fascinating, and I thought it was absolutely valuable stuff. and the whole book is valuable, but I was personally very impacted by the last part of the book. But as I was reading it, before you used the word, and you do eventually use the word, I thought, legacy, reputation. Really a person's name. I mean, the Bible makes that case.
It makes it very clear.
Yeah, is one of the most valuable things you'll ever possess. And it's not the case, as you say in the book, of what people say in the eulogy. It's what is remembered about what you invested in the lives of other people.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is try to have a legacy that is family focused.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I've seen it on both sides. I've seen, just recently, I attended a funeral of a very highly influential business guy in Nashville, and it was interesting because this gentleman had really poured himself into the community, was on several boards, and was just a noted businessman. And it was interesting at his funeral, it was almost like it was one of those check off the box kind of experiences. I'm sitting there in the pew, and people were passing in, politicians, CEOs, bank owners, etc. And there's no emotion about the loss of this life. This man did not live a life of faith, and people just kind of passed in, passed out, no one stayed. And I sat there kind of startled by it. And then I looked to my left, and there is a 13-year-old son. That's the only person in the entire funeral that's crying. And to the right of his casket is this big collage of buildings that he built, and businesses that he owned, and cars that he drove, and boats that he owned, and all these trappings. And I thought, how sad, because all of these people that have kind of come in and left so quickly, they got everything they needed from him. But this kid, it's apparent that he's hurting because he didn't get what he needed from his dad. And so I've seen it on the bad sides, but I've also seen it on the good sides, when I've seen where people have poured into their families, their businesses, they've been highly successful, but they've been balanced in that process. And I think that that's simply the cry, is that it's not bad to be good in business, but it's bad to be good in business and bad at home.
Yeah. And you make the point in the book that generally speaking, husbands are well-intentioned, and that when asked will say their number one priority and the first love of their life is their family. They will say that while they're working 90-hour weeks and are never home. Yeah. You mentioned one guy in the book who he suddenly struck him that his daughter was entering her senior year in high school, and she'd be going on to university the next year, and he said, I don't know her.
Yeah, very true story. And you know, unfortunately, this gentleman had very successful business, and he really didn't know how to turn around and repair that relationship. And so I simply asked him. He was a very talented guy, had been involved in a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and I said, well, your best skill set, as I can see it, is that you're great at starting new businesses. I said, why don't you view her like a new like a new business, give yourself 18 months, which is how much time you have before she leaves to go to school, and focus on her just like you would a new business, and create a plan, an 18-month plan to win her heart. And he did that, and it accomplished it, and it's a beautiful thing. But if you had just simply said to him, go take her to the park, or go do this with her, or go to the movies, he would have said, I don't know how to do that part.
Yeah, so in treating her like a business, and I mean, there would be those hearing that would say, what? How impersonal. But what you're saying is, think strategically, think intentionally, follow through, and be consistent.